Okay, well, my pleasure to present. Thank you, Matt, for the introduction. I'm going to tell you about Sumting. Sumting is a digital platform for nature restoration that links every payment to proof of the results. Why is that important? As you can see, most of us want to compensate our impact on nature. But the leading alternative to do so, carbon credits, is literally not giving us the results we're looking for. Maybe some of you know this from personal experience. You make a payment and then you never hear back from what actually happened with your money, what was achieved. And even if you look closer at carbon credits, you can see that they are really not moving the needle. 96% of all the carbon credits out there is avoiding carbon from being emitted rather than taking it out of the atmosphere and cleaning up the mess that we've made altogether. So that's where we come in. Our platform links nature restoration projects to demand on the other side. So if you have a closer look at our ecosystem, on the supply side, we have a host of nature restoration projects. One category is sinking carbon, for example, by planting trees. But we quickly learned that we can leverage our infrastructure for other kinds of nature restoration projects as well. So salvaging ocean plastic, fighting desertification, and restoring wildlife are also part of our scope. And that's on the supply side. On the demand side, we see a mix of our own channels, so our own web shop and subscription models, providing it to businesses that can offset their impacts. But also, because we have this digital layer, we are able to integrate into the solutions of third parties. So, for example, in an e-commerce checkout, in a savings app, all of this can be integrated into the places where people want to compensate their impacts. And now, so over here on the right, you see the example, and I'll give a quick demo in a bit of how this actually works. But the benefits of our solution are threefold. The first is the transparency, right? The results are undisputable because they are visible directly. And we can also verify that in the future using satellites and IoT, for example. The second benefit is that giving money to an actual result is much more rewarding for the people contributing. And you see that, right? You see that the average donation multiplies by a factor of 3, which is very significant. And it's important because this challenge to restore nature is massive. And then finally, by providing this digital platform, we can make the entire nature restoration ecosystem more effective. Our partners can leverage our IT infrastructure for free and lower their overhead costs on IT and marketing, and thereby use the money more effectively to restore nature. Our business model works as follows. So our margin is 1/6 out of every transaction that goes through the platform. So we essentially ask our partners how much money they need for a contribution, a tree, a kilogram of plastic salvaged, and then we plus our margin on top of it, which is justifiable because we maintain the digital infrastructure. And then in terms of the growth model, we really go to market focusing on businesses. Businesses give us the scale that we need to complete these projects and make it accessible for individuals as well to contribute to nature restoration, which in turn creates exposure and trust with the businesses that are compensating via our platform, bringing in more businesses to join in. Then looking at the competitive landscape, so we really see 2 dimensions that are important here. And the first I already talked about is the depth of feedback. So what are the actual results that I can see? And the second is the breadth of solutions, because seeing your tree once, that's great, twice, that's great, but seeing it 100 times is not perhaps as engaging. But having a tree one time and then a coral reef and then a beehive that's being restored, that's what makes it engaging. That's what can really grow our recurring revenues. So we see ourselves as the aggregator of those kinds of projects. And because we have that, we can offer the subscription model and really grow our business over a long term as the one-stop shop for nature restoration. Then looking at the team, so Matt, maybe similar background, but I also worked at building digital platforms for 6 years at Deloitte Digital. My co-founders have really complementary skills, one in development, that's Guido, and then finally Gijs in really the commercial role. And we have a board of advisors that really helps us on the sustainability and the platform side of things.
Your time is up. I am sorry.
Okay.
I'll give you an extra 10 seconds because I forgot to give you the last topic.
Cool, no worries. Yeah, this is this is the traction that we've shown thus far. 900 transactions already through the platform, over 8 projects live, and our partnerships are up and running as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing and presenting. Hand things over to Matt first this time. Matt, do you have questions for Mike?
Yeah. So first of all, love what you're doing. I have a deep-seated hatred for carbon marketplaces right now. It's just like shifting chairs on the Titanic kind of thing. And I love biodiversity, and there's a paltry number of companies trying to deal with that from a for-profit venture perspective. And I'd love to find business models that do kind of what you're doing. So you're replacing carbon offset, I'm going to fly today and I want to feel better about it kind of stuff. That's a big market for startups, but I'm not sure it's a big market for people. I'm not sure if it's like financially viable. So can you talk to me about like what the demand is for this kind of thing and where you get that proof, other than other startups that are like, hey, you're going to take a flight, offset your carbon footprint, which I think is horseshit stuff. I love what you're doing, by the way. Just make me believe that it's going to be financially viable for a venture-backed startup.
Awesome. Yeah. So, what really makes us unique is the fact that every single tree in this case is uniquely identifiable. And
right.
That makes it super interesting for companies because they can allocate each contribution to a customer, an employee, a stakeholder. And so,
personal.
Yeah, exactly. So now we are closing a contract with a large bicycle selling company that wants to offset their 250,000 users. And the cool thing is that with this, they can provide a tree for every user, and then the users can compare the trees, where they are, how they're growing. And that is really something that carbon offsets or those certificates would never be able to do. So yeah, we're already seeing that traction in the market. And then in terms of the size of that market, really the sky is the limit, as you know, like carbon credits, and then even more broadly, the nature restoration ecosystem.
Okay, great. I think I get it. I'd be interested in double clicking on all of the details, but I'll leave that for another time.
Cool.
Yeah, maybe you can talk me through also the details of how that actually works, specifically on the time component, where a lot of brokers go off, they collect all the offsets, credits, and then they go and buy those credits, either in the market, spot market, or find those projects. But how do you synchronize, basically, how do you drive your pipeline of projects while also tokenize it appropriately, and then making sure no double counting? Can you talk me through that?
Yeah, so how it works is we aggregate the demand on one side and then allocate it to our partners. And that can be based on their capacity, and which also has a time dimension. So sometimes the planting season in one country ends and then in another it starts. So that's where we can be smart and allocate it to the right kinds of projects. Yeah, I think that's one mechanism for sure. And then how, in addition, we really have a triangle, we say, of 3 things that we use to monitor those agreements. So one is the legal aspects. We have contracts with the partners that talk about the level of feedback, but also about the fact that they are not allowed to double sell and all these kind of things. The second is the social aspect. So we have very close relationships with the people on the ground doing the actual work, and also learning from them what works. And then finally is a technology aspect. So all of the pictures that are uploaded onto our platform are scanned by a image recognition algorithm, and in addition to the date and timestamp that we also analyze. So that makes sure that we can verify in an automated way the proof that is shared.
It sounds like a lot of work to verify that a tree is a tree. It makes me wonder if it's economically viable, and if it even makes sense. I like the fact that you saw the 3 times increase in the average donations or spend. How did you guys compare that, or where did that number exactly come from?
Yeah, so this is from one project here in the Netherlands. It's quite well known, and they have created this little platform for themselves to show the actual proof of a contribution. And since they have that platform, their average donation has increased with a factor 3. But the only missing link in their solution is the fact that it's just for them. But the strength of such a platform is in opening it up and delivering it to multiple projects. So yeah, that's really what we see as the future. Also because people, and especially businesses, like to kind of consolidate all of their efforts in one place instead of having 10 separate partners or separate logins for this kind of thing.
Could you do something similar, just measuring tree density? So just wait till it's fall, all the tree leaves fall off, and then you try to guess how many trees there are. I feel like when we try to make things more digital and less manual to make them scalable. And this is somebody walking through the woods taking a picture of every tree. Or am I getting that wrong?
No, well, what we learn from our partners, it's a very minimal additional effort, because they have to plant a tree anyway, and they have a smartphone in their pocket, so it's not that much of an effort to take that additional picture. But what I agree with you totally is this fact of like satellite data, for example, playing a major role in our role as a platform to monitor and audit the actual work, even beyond the input that the partner delivers themselves. So that's where in the future we're looking at satellite imagery, IoT, to really deliver further auditing of the results. But the effort for the partners is relatively low. And yeah, perhaps like this is just geeking out on the solution, but what is really cool, for example, with plastic salvaging, is that those partners need to monitor how much plastic is in the bins anyway, because they need to empty it. Right, and it's just a matter of putting that data and using it in the front to finance the actual results. So yeah, the effort is quite minimal, I think.
Especially as like trees get automated with drones delivering the seeds, the drones can automate that. ML can automate on the background. I actually don't think the asset gathering is going to be the hard part. I do think the really big upside for you is that it's personal. You're building a social network around natural habitat restoration in a way, and that gives meaning to the people that are like pushing for this, which are your natural end customers in a way.
Yeah.
Who are those key customers? Or well, is it companies buying it for their users, or how can you achieve a sort of a snowball effect, or what are the attractive e-commerce that you go after? What is the key addressable market?
Yeah, so at the moment we are pretty focused on technology companies and professional services companies, because what we see is that talent really is a key driver for these kinds of initiatives. So anyone can buy a carbon offset, but if you really want to do this well and differentiate yourselves in the market, you need to go beyond those kind of things. And so we're seeing really good traction with employers in that way to provide this as a perk, for example, to their employees, or create a more sort of democratic way to compensate for the business. So now everyone can allocate a slice of the total budget that is available for nature restoration within a business. And that's something that we can also facilitate with our platform in that way.
And how do you see the future of that? Those are one-offs, and you need to continuously be pushing for that, or continuously have another enterprise that want to get something. But how can you build that as a more a different model, like a subscription model, and build some ARR? Or
yeah, exactly. So that is actually the subscription model that we are now actively pushing. So then you see companies kind of taking that subscription for their employees. And that really helps to bring in the recurring revenues, obviously. And well, how do I see that evolve? Like in the future, obviously we grow our scale with the partners. What our dream is for the future is that we create a sort of new model for donations that at least in the nature restoration space, it will become the standard that you get the results of your contribution instead of the black box status quo that is there currently. And if we manage to achieve that, then we tap into all of the flows that these partners currently have, accelerating their impact and growing our platform.
Are there any projects where you would stay away? And I know that mangroves have come under quite some scrutiny, but what is the restoration projects that are attractive to you, and what are the ones that are not?
Yeah, so we have a couple of hygiene factors, I think. So one is this level of feedback. Some projects do not want to or are not able to comply with that, and then it's immediately a no. The second thing is really the transparency that we ask from our partners. So we ask them also to break down their costs to show us and show our customers how much of that money goes to maintenance, how much of that money goes to permits, everything in order to make sure that this impact is lasting, right? Anyone can throw a seed into a field, but if it never matures into a tree or into a forest even, there's really no point. So I think that's the second thing, like this transparency and the longevity of the contribution. And then finally, I think the integrity related to how they treat their workforce and their people that are doing the actual work on the ground.
How many trees get planted each year, and how much does it cost to plant a tree? I'm just trying to think about how big something like this could be and how much you could actually charge on your side.
Yeah, so on our side, currently with the projects that we have, in the tree category, it ranges between 5 and 8 euros, roughly. And now if we look at, so we are currently in the process of setting up a local ecosystem in Kenya together with a partner, because in Kenya, as one example, nature restoration is regulated by law. So the government has set a target to plant 3 trillion trees, and every company in Kenya is kind of obliged to comply or take its share in that goal. So it's a very interesting market for us, and it just shows the potential, right? If you look at that market size.
Kenya wants to plant 3 trillion trees.
Yeah. I think
there's 3 trillion trees on Earth.
Well, no. So there are really the potential to plant trees. So it's from 7% to 10%. They want to increase the cover of the trees in Kenya, and that's just a massive potential market for us.